We've got Arne Gibbs, who's the chair of Mozambique Rovuma Ventures from ExxonMobil. Timothy Fakrogha, he's GM Commercial for NLNG. You just heard his chief executive give some remarks. Julius Rone, he's the CEO of UTM Offshore. I had the pleasure of sitting next to you at dinner last night. Then we've got Federico Petersen. He's the head of commercial at Golar LNG, company many of you will know. And then Mohamed Linam he's country manager in Mauritania for BP, so involved in an exciting LNG project there. So I'm going to start off with you, Timothy. I'm going to start off with NLNG has been exporting LNG since the last century, 1999. So I wanted to start with you on a commercial picture. You've got Train 7 and extra volumes from Trains 1 through 6 coming on in the year or two ahead, and then you're trying to push forward with further expansion. How do you see the commercial environment for marketing that LNG from an NLNG commercial perspective?
Yeah, thank you, Laurent. I think let me first start by giving a brief context of the commercial environment. So I think it is characterized by three key areas or focus areas. First is the market flexibility. Now, in the past, the industry used to be very rigid in terms of having long-term contracts, but we are moving now to medium to short-term. Also, the buyers are looking for more flexibility in terms of destination flexibility, as well as a mix of their supply portfolio. So on that area, it is something we are working critically very well. The second key area I will mention is the geopolitical demand. So there has been some need for a secure source of LNG, and buyers are looking for more secure and diverse source of LNG. With the Russian-Ukraine war, Europe has moved more to the US, so there are new supply waves coming from Europe and other parts of the world. And this is something, again, we as LNG are doing to ensure that not just Train 7, we are moving to have that secure new LNG supply with future Train 8 and Train 9 expansion. The last key areas I would like to talk about is increased competition. So there is now therefore increased competition for that secure source that you need to get the LNG from. And buyers are a bit selective based on their view of how you treat the LNG in terms of carbon neutral, in terms of your ESG goal. And LNG, we are committed in actually, we are committed to our ESG goals in terms of lowering our emissions, in terms of methane abatements, in terms of carbon capture technology. So these are the things we are doing to make ourselves the preferred partner. And we pride ourselves even in our motto, inspiring a sustainable future. So I think on this area, we are truly doing very well. When you look at market flexibility, we are doing more shorter duration of our LNG contracts. We are also looking at having that flexibility for the buyers to allow for destination flexibility and a mix of the FOB. We're also trying to secure more gas supply to ensure that we have stable supply for our suppliers because they want reliable suppliers. That we are doing. You may be aware we just signed some 6 GSAs that's going to provide us about 1.2 billion standard cubic feet of gas per day at its peak. And that is just for phase 1.
Good. I'll probably come back to you on the link with upstream, but you're right. I mean, the LNG market is transforming. It makes your job harder. Probably have to hire more people on your commercial team. But Federico, over to you. Golar LNG has been, a critical piece of the value chain with FLNG technology for African LNG. What have you learned being a pioneer in this space in West Africa in terms of the commercial outlook and the role of FLNG?
Yeah. So, I mean, we have 2 vessels currently in Africa, one in Cameroon, it's a 2.4 million tons vessel, and then another one with our partners here in Mauritania and Senegal, which is a 2.7 MTPA. I think from a commercial point of view, we try to focus on the pre-work, on the identification, what we call the Holy Trinity. So it has to be a good asset. Our vessels are large, so the gas accumulations that we are looking for need to be the right ones for the best utilization of the vessels. Because at the end of the day, you want that liquefaction tariff to be competitive. We think that finding cheap gas is particularly important. So in Africa, we look for reinjected gas. So Nigeria, Congo have those type of assets. We look also for expansions. GTA is one example. We would love to put a vessel in Mozambique. But then you have also breakthroughs where you can do exactly what Ian did in Mozambique. You can probably do it in Tanzania. You can do it in Angola. But this identifying the assets is particularly important. And the second thing is getting the right partners. And the partners are, we have an excellent partner in Perenco. We have an excellent partner in BP and Cosmos from a company perspective, but also from a government perspective, having supportive governments like we have in Cameroon, and like we have, despite being a cross-border project, good support from Senegal and Mauritania. And finally, it has to be a good contract for everyone, not just for Golar. We are an enabler for those accumulations to be exported, and therefore the share for everyone needs to be good. Otherwise, there's always somebody complaining that they're not making enough money. If we have a cheap gas, if we have the right contracts, if we have the right partners, we think we can achieve that.
Thank you. I'm over to you, Mohammed. I'm going from the most established producer onto the prospective and greenfield project. So that's the logic behind the order. So Mohammed, over to you. Your GTA, which actually won the award last night for gas monetization, I think well deserved. You started up last year. What have you learned from being involved in managing this project?
Yeah, thank you for that, Laurent. Happy to be in this panel, and thank you for reminding that we have been awarded last night award regarding gas monetization. So, we learned a lot through this journey, the last 10 years, from the discovery of first gas field in Mauritania and Senegal till the exportation of first cargo. And if I look to that, I will start by saying 10 years ago, it was a shared vision by Mauritania and Senegal to develop common resources. This was really the basic and the beginning of this journey. Then, to develop that, we also worked in very, very great partnership with our joint venture, Cosmos Energy, Estimation Senegal, and Petersen in Mauritania. And that really required to combine ideas, skills, and all of that to overcome the challenge. And if we look back, 10 years ago, we went through a lot of challenge. We decided to develop this project in 2018. You can imagine with COVID and with typhoon that hitting us and difficult market, all of that. So really happy to be today. We already exported 10 cargoes from this project. And it's very complex. And actually, it's mega project. It's 4 big components. One very complex subsea component, big, huge FPSO to process the gas, and GIMI, the liquefaction facilities with our partner of Golar. And so you can see all of that. It's make this project. And deep water, floating LNG, cross-border. So you can combine all of that. So if I would retain one big lesson from that, I will try to have one, is the power of partnership. Last one, I will put my African or Mauritanian or Senegalese hat. As an African leader, I will say, we can do business in Mauritania and Senegal. We can do business from day one, from discovery, even exploration, to exportation of gas. And this is a great lesson, not only for Mauritania and Senegal, but I think for the whole African continent.
Thank you. I think the cooperation between the two governments it's very rare globally for this to happen, and it's going very smoothly so far, so that's very good to hear. Arne, you've been in Mozambique for
8 years.
8 years. I was going to say 6, but 8 years. It's, I think, the biggest gas potential as far as we know right now in sub-Saharan Africa. how's it going? And what have been the challenges for Rovuma, which you're personally responsible for, and how do you see that going forward?
Yeah. I'm not sure how I feel about Mozambique being last on the line here as the least developed, but it's true. It's true that we're trying to get to that FID and targeting next year. But I think, I would say on behalf of kind of as operator for Rovuma LNG, and everyone asked the question about the ongoing force majeure. I would say that we're working very closely with the government of Mozambique, with Total Energies, and with our partners on ensuring that the necessary conditions are met for the lifting of force majeure. I guess if you ask me what my focus area is, I'm focused on kind of beyond force majeure and how do we ensure long-term, sustainable, secure operating environment in Cabo Delgado. And I give a lot of credit to the Mozambican soldiers and the Rwandan soldiers that are in Cabo Delgado and for what they've been able to achieve. But I think we would all agree that long-term stability will not be brought through soldiers, it's brought through economic development in Cabo Delgado. And that's a very key focus area for us as we prepare for the restart of the projects. And we're looking at, if you ask me how do I solve that problem, it's a combination of things. It's maximizing local content, both ourselves and Total Energies, not only Mozambique local content, but Cabo Delgado local content. It's maximizing nationalization and training, and we're working very closely with ENH on how do we establish a training center in Maputo for training Mozambican operators for our facilities. It's economic development initiatives in Cabo Delgado, and how do we build small, medium, large enterprises in Cabo Delgado so they become a part of the project. And then finally, and very importantly, it's domestic gas. And we have to work together, and we were talking about partnerships, we have to work together between the private sector and the government and we can't just have LNG projects in Cabo Delgado, you have to have ancillary domestic gas projects and other projects that support it. And every project brings jobs and opportunities for Cabo Delgado, and that's long-term stability.
Is the domestic gas, is that for power generation primarily, or is it broader?
All of the above,
Okay.
all of the above. And I think, whether it's fertilizer, ammonia, chemicals, and power, I think we need to look at all of those options. And again, public-private partnerships, getting together and building out those value chains and bring that opportunity to Mozambique.
Yeah, the president of Mozambique was in New York for the General Assembly. He had private and public remarks that I think show that complete alignment with what you're talking about in terms of building support among the population so they can see the benefits. So it's really good to hear. So Julius, Rone, last but certainly not least, a greenfield project in Nigeria. It's fascinating. You told me a little bit about it last night. Can you tell us a little bit about your project and what it's like to be a greenfield new project competing in the market, trying to find buyers, off-takers, competing with established projects?
Okay, thank you very much. First and foremost, I believe that Nigeria is on a trajectory to develop our gas resources, both offshore and onshore gases. And the government has given a lot of incentives to that direction, including several executive orders to encourage investors to come and develop, most especially the offshore gas that have not been tapped. A lot of offshore gas is stranded, and today in the world, the technology has been proven that can develop those gases. And that's why we are developing the floating LNG with the National Oil Company of Nigeria, which is NNPC Limited. And like you said, developing a green field comes with a lot of challenges, most especially if you're coming in as your first project and taking such a magnitude of project that runs into several billions of dollars to put it together. I believe that one of the things that we've gotten right from day one is to have the best engineering companies in the world that we're able to onboard it into this project and put a consortium that has developed the open sea floating LNGs in the world as the team that is developing the Nigerian first floating LNG. That being said, a lot of issues that you need to cross the hurdles to get to final investment decision. First and foremost, you need to get your hands together, be able to see a clear sight of your gas for your project. Because if you don't have a gas, you don't have a project. And to develop an LNG project, you need to ensure that you have all these segments in one piece, the upstream, the midstream, and the downstream. So therefore, first we need to identify a gas that will give us a project that we see bankability on the upstream side, bankability on the midstream, and the downstream. So we needed to partner with NNPC, who is in a joint venture with the International Oil Company. The asset we identified is OML 104. It's a 60-40 split between NNPC and Seplat Energy. And one thing that is going is that that asset, the gas currently is being re-injected and being flared, and is a stranded gas. So for us, the upstream has been well taken care of. So we came into the midstream, and we were able to galvanize the world best to be part of the project. They have built the two float. They are doing the floating LNG in Mozambique, JGC and Technip. They did the first one. They are doing the second one. They also did the floating LNG in Malaysia. Malaysia 1, 2. They are doing the third one as well. They did the biggest floating LNG in the world, which is Prelude, owned by Shell. They built it. So in terms of experience and ability to deliver the engineering part and the midstream, we got that covered. So we need to go back to look at the issue of the financing, how do we put the financing together, and then we have to get in Afreximbank from Cairo, give them mandate to raise both the debt and equity on our behalf, and that is going on pretty well because Afreximbank has a mandate to support inter-African trade and support indigenous companies from Africa. And because you need a bank of such magnitude to be able to pull the pool of funds together, aggregate from other banks, and then be able to see the debt fully covered. So that we've been able to achieve. Okay, so we come down to the downstream sector. If you produce the LNG, how are you going to do it? Who's going to offtake it? How are you going to do the liquids? We have condensate, we have propane and butane. As part of domestic requirement, we're leaving the LPG for domestic market to support the in-country requirement, while the LNG will be exported to support demand in Europe and Asia. So that being put together, I believe that the UTM project is on a trajectory to FID, but it's 3 steps to FID. The first step is to get your gas supply agreement inked. The second step is to ink your sales and purchase agreement, and then you go into the financing and declare the final investment decision. In the next couple of 2-3 weeks from now, we should be signing the gas supply agreement with Seplat. That has been negotiated up to 90-95%, so we're very close to close that out. So that being said, once that is inked, we'll proceed and conclude the negotiation on the SPA with Vitol and NNPC Trading. They are involved in the midstream, and they are going to be involved in the downstream as well. So on the engineering part of things, we've done with the pre-feed, we've done with concept, we've done with pre-feed, we've done with feed, and we are currently working on the EPCIC stage of the project. It's a consortium of JTC, JGC, Technip, and COSCO Shipyard to do the oil and integration in China. So that piece has been well plotted and put together, and it's not been an easy task. We've been running on this since 2021, but at least we're getting into the end of it, and hopefully by next year we'll commence construction, and we look forward to able to achieve the FID before we go up for the close of the 2025. Thank you.
So, yeah, and you've got I mean, if you don't have an off-taker, you don't have a project, you've got an off-taker lined up, which just speaks to a point I made in my previous remarks, which is that a lot of people want long-term LNG supplier willing to make commitments to back that up. So you talked a lot about the integration upstream and the floating liquefaction. So talk a little bit more about more technical aspects and turn back to you, Arne. What can you say? I know there's been changes to the Rovuma design concept. What can you tell us about that?
Well, I think we're kind of in a similar position. And the challenge of getting to FID is marrying up that marketing, financing, commercial, and technical piece. And all those pieces got to come together at one beautiful moment to get to that FID. We are finalizing, and so we're very busy on all those things. We're finalizing our feed right now, specifically for our liquefaction. Our target is to have those bids in hands first quarter next year in preparation for that FID decision. And we redid our feed because we did change our design during the force majeure for an 18 MTA modular electric ELNG design. And the concept that we're progressing that I think is kind of cutting edge in the industry right now, but also that we're also seeing with kind of Venture Global and some of the other projects is greener, and it'll be more competitive as well. It also minimizes our on-site exposure, so the modules will be built off-site and brought into site and fabricated there. But also, very important, not only is it greener, but it'll help us compete with the U.S. Gulf Coast competition. And that's, I saw your last presentation. I fully agree. We agree that we think Mozambique and Rovuma LNG can compete directly with the biggest competition, which is U.S. Gulf Coast producers.
So how big is each of the smaller modular trains?
So it'll be 12 modules of 1.5 MTA each.
Because that, I mean, you mentioned Venture Global. I mean, the modular concept has revolutionized U.S. Gulf Coast LNG, and so it's interesting to see it spreading. And Mozambique will be the next place that this is deployed, it sounds like.
That is the goal. That is our goal.
Well, that's exciting. Mohammed, you're not resting on your laurels. BP and Cosmos are moving ahead to proposed GTA Train 2. How's that going? And there obviously must be an upstream development integrated with that. How challenging has that been?
Yeah, good question. Integrating upstream with liquefaction facilities is not easy. I'm sure Federico will confirm that. And because liquefaction facilities are very sensitive to the change. So now, in terms of the next phase, just keep in mind, Laurent, that we just started 5 months ago exporting LNG molecule from this complex field. As I told you in my first answer to a question, that we are learning from this complex project, really, really complex with these 4 components. And we are learning also as we're producing. And we need the lessons from this first phase in order to move to the next phases. To put it in a simple way, we are building, our shared vision is a nice building. We already have the first floor, very nice and complex first floor, and we need to optimize and to learn more in order to go to the second floor. And, but we are working every day with our partners, with the government of Mauritania and Senegal, and our partners from Cosmos, SMH, and Petersen, to come with ideas, concept, model, in order to develop this. But we need this data, we need to optimize our production and to learn more every day to go from that. But we have also, there is some challenge, of course. But also it is good that we learn from the first phase that, again, let me reiterate that power of partnership. We have great partnership with states and our joint venture partners. We believe in this project. We work together every day to progress that. And I am very, very confident with the number of lessons learned, with all the skills that we are gathering, all of us together, that we will progress that at peace.
Thank you. Federico, over to you. So you mentioned Golar has 2 FLNG vessels deployed in Africa right now. The one in Cameroon, the contract is up. It's sailing to Argentina, I guess, next year. What can West Africa, obviously that's, if you're a West African government or producer, you'd like that not to happen. What can West African countries do and producers to attract and keep the infrastructure necessary if it's FLNG?
Yeah. Well, first of all, as you said, the contract finishes next year, mid next year, and there's no more gas for that contract. And we would have loved to stay in Cameroon. Unfortunately, we owe to our shareholders, and we need to find a home for that. We cannot have our vessel idle. But, generally speaking, we have one vessel, the Hilly, is going to Argentina, and so is the Mark II. We decided to build an FLNG off spec. We decided that last year. We got it contracted. It's going to Argentina as well. So 2 vessels will go to Argentina. Our intention is to place another vessel in Africa. And the reason for that is, from a diversification point of view, that's the right thing to do. And we are actively looking for those projects. I mentioned before in Nigeria, Congo, Mauritania, Senegal. And what governments can do is support the companies in getting the right framework from a tax perspective, from a PSC perspective, from an access to or an access to foreign exchange, so that the project becomes robust. At the end of the day, we are the only company that does FLNG as a service. So all those issues of getting the marketing, to get the financing, you don't have it as a company. We are doing everything up front, and you will only start paying a tariff when we arrive. Before that, you need to focus on delivering on the project, on the upstream. That's why for us, it is very, very important to have the right asset and the right partner. And the partner is a good operator, and the partner is a good government that accelerates things and makes things easier for the companies.
I'm actually surprised to hear that you built a vessel on spec without a customer. That's expensive. Financially, is that?
It is financially expensive, and we are prepared to do it again.
Okay.
If we see the portfolio projects that we have, we think we could do that in the near future.
Wow.
The intention is to do one vessel per year, and it has challenges. You know, you need to get a shipyard, you need to get the long lead items. At the moment, turbines and compressors, you're fighting with new customers worldwide, particularly, data centers.
Sure.
That is creating an issue for any FLNG. We work with our partners, and the intention is always one FLNG per year. So if you have a project, just
me personally,
speed
no,
up.
but someone in this room does. I'm sure of it. Timothy, your chief executive mentioned it, Julius mentioned it, and it's come up a lot, particularly in the context of Nigeria. Domestic use of gas being a priority to make sure that the people of Nigeria get access to this energy as well. How does that factor in your calculus with NLNG? Because there's a lot of gas, but there's other ways it can be used. How do you navigate that as NLNG?
Yeah, thanks, Laurent. I think, like you mentioned clearly, Julius actually said it on with respect to what is happening in the domestic space. So there's that fiscal incentive to get in more gas from the upstream, and then there's the competition. But before going into those details, so with the advent of the PIA in 2021, and the creation of these two regulatory agencies, NUPRC and that of NMDPRA. Now, the figures from NUPRC is that the average daily production for gas is about 7.58 BCF per day, with a year-to-year increase of about 8.58%. However, the domestic gas demand is also increasing, as at 2020, according to NUPRC, it was about 4 BCF per day, but as at 2030, it's going to be about 22 BCF per day. So there's a likelihood that it's going to outpace the supply or the production of the gas, that is the domestic demand. So there's definitely going to be competition. You have the AKK, which is the Ajaokuta-Kaduna-Kano pipeline. So it's actually taking gas from the south to the north to industrialize the northern part of the country and also to power the north. You also have the OB3. I think you must have heard about the West African gas pipeline from the minister. We also have the plans for Nigeria-Morocco pipeline and also Nigeria-Nigerian pipeline. So there's definitely competition for the gas. So how do we play in this space? We have been existing for some time, like you mentioned, since 1999. So that's why I mentioned the idea of being a favored destination for most of these gas suppliers. They trust us, we are reliable, we pay on time. And so he's going to compete with me for those same gas, because the same people that are going to supply me gas is going to definitely supply Julius. But the reality really is that we are not resting on our oars. So like I mentioned in my first response to your question, we had already signed 6 GSAs that I said for gas supply to our plants, not just for Train 7, but for our portfolio approach for the whole of the plants. And we're also planning for Train 8 and Train 9. So in that process, we're looking for what we call Phase 2 and phase 3 of gas supply. So we're already in the process to get more. We already at, like I said, 1.2 BCF per day based on these 6 GSAs we signed. With these new ones we are planning, we'll get close to about 2.5 BCF per day. So giving a total for the plants to be close to about 5.5 BCF per day. So we really need to secure that gas in order to ensure that we have that secured LNG going forward.
Okay, but you mentioned the competition, and Julius, I mean, when you're selling, so you've got Vitol lined up as an off-taker. So that's a credit-worthy entity, big, financially powerful, that's going to take that gas and sell it internationally on whatever terms are negotiated. Domestically, isn't there going to be, if you're going to power sector, can the government solve that problem? The prices may be lower, there may be credit problems or off-take problems. Are those being managed successfully by Nigerian government, and is there a lesson for other governments? Because that's a lot of domestic consumption, actually.
Yes, so a lot is going on in Nigeria as regards gas development, right? Currently, we're not just talking about the power sector. Nigeria just quit subsidy for petroleum products, and on the back of that, we're looking at using CNG as to fire up autos in the country. And so the government is putting a lot of incentive in place to ensure that our gas is utilized domestically, and that's why, as part of our transition, and also to reduce emission, is to encourage clean cooking. So the demand for LPG in country is going up a lot. Nigeria LNG and a few others are supporting that space. So all the new projects are coming on stream. We will look at how to bring in domestic gas to support the clean cooking initiative, and also as part of the government initiative of the Decade of Gas program, which means that we should concentrate more on in-country demands of gas. On the issue of power, a lot is also required because you need to balance the pricing mechanism to achieve the investment. Okay. So therefore, the government is working on an initiative whereby a certain domestic price for gas to enable us support the power's demand will be lower than when you want to export your product. So with that incentives, where you have a good feedstock pricing that gives you the leverage to make the investment, when you have a gas price that is low, then you're able to support the domestic requirement by producing to support other power requirements. So a lot of internal workings to achieve the in-country demands and balance what is required to support not just Nigeria, West Africa, Africa, and Europe is also being. Nigeria is blessed with a lot of gases, but the issue here is how to bring it to the surface. So a lot of cost in development is required. And also, you need to also give a lot of incentives to investors to come in and make those investments. So therefore, that's why a lot of, in terms of balancing that, government is saying, okay, if you come and do the upstream development for offshore gas, we're going to give you X incentives, tax breaks, and all the other things that will allow you to make those investments. And then if you are going to bring the gas to the domestic market to support power, we're going to reduce the price for your feedstock to enable you to have a bankable project. So a lot is going on to allow Nigeria achieve the benefit of our gas resources.
Thank you. We're heading toward the end, but I wanted to bring it back to the global LNG market. I think you guys may have been getting mic'd, but I made a short presentation earlier talking about how there's a lot of supply coming and prices are going down. There's going to be a trough in terms of at least not oil-linked contracts, which is helpful, but for JKM spot price in Asia, TTF price in Europe. Do you think Africa and African LNG projects can compete in an environment where, at least for some years, there's going to be lower prices than the ones we've become accustomed to in the last 5 years? I open it up to whoever wants to. I see Mohammed from the BP perspective.
No, thank you very much, Laurent. We just published the Outlook, Energy Outlook report by BP. You can access to it on bp.com, very nice report. And you can see, if I get right the number, that the next 10 years will have the demand of LNG will be increased at something like 50%. So there is a room. There is a room to put some African gas on the market. And we have a lot of gas. We look from MSG basin going to Nigeria, Guinea, East Africa, Mozambique, and Tanzania. So there is reserves, and there is a room in the market. How to connect them, that's now the question. So we have experience with MNS GTA project and some other in Nigeria. And I think there is also great partnership and good lessons, again, that we learned from the last year. So there is a place for Africa in the international market.
Arne, you already mentioned Mozambique. You're sure Mozambique can compete. Is that just because of the scale of the resource? Is that the biggest factor there?
I think it's a combination of things, but ultimately, there's so much uncertainty in the market. We take a 30-year long-term view, and who knows what the world's going to look like in 30 years. But I think our fundamental principle is if you can be an economically robust with a low cost of supply project, then you can weather the uncertainties in markets and geopolitical and all of that. And that's what I think is fundamental for us, is that Rovuma LNG can go toe-to-toe with U.S. Gulf Coast LNG suppliers. And I think it's a combination of good rocks, combination of scale, technology, but also strong partnerships with the government, strong partners in the project. I mean, from my perspective, I think the stars are aligning for Rovuma. And yeah, I think, like I said, in general, ExxonMobil is positive about Mozambique. And I think Mozambique's made some great steps here already with Coral South already as a good starting point. But I think we're moving into Mozambique about to have its sunrise moment here. So that's what we're looking forward to.
It's going to have a huge impact if all those projects come through. So, Federico, is FLNG too expensive to be competitive? I know the answer, so.
So from our perspective, it's all about being competitive. And we look, for us, the competition is the US. The US is the marginal producer. When we look at Henry Hub, as demand goes up domestically because of data centers, as the liquefaction also increases because of the large demand for construction, we think we are a lot more competitive at the price that they are building. We are currently building at $650 a ton, which compares to probably between $1,000 in the US. When you add an increasing Henry Hub maybe to $4, you add $3 potentially where the liquefaction will be in the US, you are competing against an FOB of $7. We think that, and that's why I always mention we need to have those cheap sources of gas. That's why expansions are particularly important, because all the investment in the subsurface has been done already. You have a lot of sunk costs, and the infrastructure is probably built for an improvement there. So those type of projects and the projects where you have reinjected gas, where you can probably produce it at $1 or less per million BTU. And Africa has a number of those projects. Africa can be super competitive. And the important thing is we are coming at $3.5 per million BTU.
Okay.
If you add that to $1 to $1.50, you are closer to the market than the US, then you are way more competitive.
Yeah.
So we think that any African project could compete very, very strongly against anyone.
Timothy, last word, NLNG. How nervous are you about a period of low prices, or are you thinking long term?
Let me just speak a little bit about this.
Please, go ahead.
Wave.
You have the last word, so just keep your eye on the clock.
I'll try to be a bit fast. Yes, true that about 60% of this supply wave will be coming from both the US and Qatar. But then what happens with the other 40%? So like you said, Africa, we should be able to meet up that supply gap. And this additional volume that is coming from the US and Qatar, giving about 220 million tons, there's a tendency that some may not come. That's why I want to be a little bit different here. We have the Freeport Train 4, which is about 5 MTPA. It might not come. You have the Golden Pass, about 15 MTPA, may not come. We have the delay in the Mozambique LNG by Total, may not come on time, on stream. You also have declining production in Australia and Indonesia. So all this may affect the predictions for the future. Okay. But yes, definitely if these volumes do come, of course there will be a pressure on the price, the downward, but still it's good for the world, it's good for the business because there will be more non-JKT Asia buyers, Bangladesh, Thailand, Pakistan, who will be interested to pick up those volumes. So I think what we are doing at the moment is to secure those volumes for those markets for the future to ensure that the supply glut for us is, the market is an inherent market, it's cyclical, so it will definitely happen, but it will also go up again. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're out of time. Thank you very much. It was a wonderful discussion. I really want to thank all our speakers. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day here at Africa Energy Week.